What's up with everybody? It's your man, your B.
And Nicole.
We're back here with some more reaction videos. So, geography now, Denmark. The ones we checked out so far, Estonia,
Finland, and we did Latvia.
Yeah, they was all pretty good.
Did we do Latvia?
Yeah, we did Latvia.
Or Lithuania? Latvia.
They was all pretty good. So we decided to check out Denmark. This is definitely a good trap. This is definitely a good channel. He have a lot of content, and it's just like it's definitely entertaining. So we finna dive right into it.
In the Angola episode, I mentioned how I went to Denmark one time and bought a sandwich that was $21. Well, this was that sandwich, and my reaction was like, $21? Oh, this better be the best sandwich I've ever had in my life. You got lucky.
I guess it was good.
Geography now. Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbie, Legos, Vikings, and Roll. We got a lot to cover, so let's jump in.
What was that?
Yeah.
Denmark, the link between the rest of Europe and Scandinavia. So much to discuss. Denmark is classified as a Nordic country, hence located in the Northern European region, even though it's kind of like the southernmost state in the Nordics. Full disclaimer, ignore Wikipedia. I'm gonna pronounce the location names in their proper Danish context. So here we go. Denmark is made of the Jutland, not Jutland Peninsula that connects to Germany in the south, as well as 1,419 islands. Of those, 143 are named, and 74 are inhabited. With the largest island being Sjælland, not Zealand, which is not to be confused with Dutch Zeeland, which is not to be confused with New Zealand, although they did get their name.
I can't take it! That's too much
confusing.
It is connected to Fyn Island, not Finn Island, by the Great Belt Bridge completed in 1998. The country is divided into 5 regions, the capital being Copenhagen, located on Sjælland. Copenhagen is home to a myriad of historical sites, palaces, statues, residential units that are all the same height and style, with pockets of colorful, quaint, cozy shops and cafes, and dangerous bicycle lanes that you are not supposed to walk on. Now this is where things are going to get a little spiced up, and by spiced up I mean freezing cold and covered in whale blubber. Denmark, for those of you who didn't know, is a kingdom, one of the last surviving ones in Europe, and is currently under the headship of chain-smoking Queen Margaret II. These still fall under Danish sovereignty and make up the massive Greenland Island and the little Faroe Islands. Both of these places are radically different from mainland Denmark. For one, Greenland is primarily inhabited by native Inuit tribal peoples that live on the island and is 80% covered in ice year-round. The Faroe Islands are a conglomeration of 20-ish mystical, cloudy, windy islands that have this crazy-looking lake that looks like it's about to spill over the cliffs into the ocean. These two areas have their own self-governing home rule, otherwise only depending on Denmark for military, justice, currency, and foreign affairs. Otherwise, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, historically, they did try to kind of create an empire by colonizing parts of the Caribbean, Ghana, India, and then in the Nicobar Islands in the Indian Ocean, but they kind of ran out of money and ended up selling everything to other countries. Too bad. It would be awesome to see people in the Indian Ocean speaking Danish. Nonetheless, mainland Denmark is kind of like a fast-moving economic machine. Let's talk about how. Now, when it comes to land makeup, Denmark is pretty flat. I mean, the highest point, Møllehøj, is only about 170 meters tall, and it looks like this. Otherwise, only about 15% of the country is forested, including the tree plantations, and the rest is pretty much used for agriculture that can produce enough food to feed about 15 million people. It's about 3 times the size of their entire population. Good for you, Denmark. But one thing Denmark is actually famous for growing is non-produce plants like grass, fodder, and Christmas trees. The highly sought-after Danish Nordmann fir has been classified as the Rolls-Royce of Christmas trees, and every year investors from Germany, the Netherlands, and even the UK jump in at the end of November and grab whatever they can before it's gone. Now, one thing you need to know is that like many other areas in the Nordic region, Denmark's weather can be quite dreary. First of all, Denmark is the only Nordic country that doesn't really get a lot of snow. Denmark is kind of like the mud pit located below the jet stream blocked by Norway and the UK. This means that even though it gets really cold, pressure systems rarely cause snow. This is also pretty much why everybody dresses like a J. Crew fall fashion line model on the streets. If you're gonna get wet and freezing, you may as well look good while doing it. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, pretty much the rest of Denmark is just rolling green plains with sandy beaches and quirky little islands that people like to hop over for camping trips in the summer. If we were gonna talk about Greenland and the Faroe Islands, we would get a radically different story of mind-boggling, captivating cliffs, bluffs, sea stacks, glaciers, fissures, icebergs, and mountains. If you don't know what a Mulan is, it's not this, but this.
This Mulan is large enough to swallow a school bus.
Dang. Ooh,
but we'll have to say that for another video. They'll come out in 9,374 years. In the meantime, let's talk about the people. Now this is gonna get really fun. Denmark's people are really unique in their cultural, historical, and postmodern upbringing. First of all, the country has about 5.7 million people and is one of the highest taxed countries in the world. About 89% of the country identifies as ethnically Danish, about 11% are others. Some of the largest groups in the other category being the Polish, Germans, Turkish, Romanians, Iraqis, and Afghans. Now when it comes to Danish culture, there's a lot behind it, but in a nutshell, Vikings. Vikings pretty much had their start in what is now present-day Denmark, and whom pretty much dominated all of the Nordic regions as far as Newfoundland in Canada to Estonia, which is why most of the Nordic states and regions can pretty much understand each other when they talk. Danes, Swedes, Norwegians, and Icelanders can generally understand each other as they have the same basic linguistic structure. Sure, there are subtle discrepancies, but overall they can kind of get by conversationally.
Sana.
Granted, there's a saying, the Norwegian and Swedish languages sound like dancing fairies, whereas the Danish language sounds like a dude with a potato in his mouth. By the way, anybody who wants to learn Danish, full disclosure, it's gonna suck. The J makes the Y sound, the Y makes the U sound, the V makes a W sound, the R makes a R sound, the H is silent half the time, a ton of the letters are never even used, and don't even get started on A, U, and O. I kind of discovered a little trick though when I went to Denmark. When speaking Danish, all you really have to do is kind of like pronounce the first part of the word that you think makes a sound, and then just kind of like give up on the rest of the word. For example, Copenhagen, Nybroggen, Løvstrand. I'm literally just listing names of places in Copenhagen that I've been to. Honestly though, you really won't have much of a problem getting around if you speak English. Over 80% of the entire country, mostly the younger generation, speaks proficient English to the point where they don't even need subtitles when watching American TV shows and movies. Also, keep in mind, Greenland has its own language that is completely unintelligible as it's an Inuit language closer to the indigenous Inuktitut and Yupik languages found in Canada and Alaska. And Faroese is pretty hard for most Danish people to grasp as it actually has more words rooted in the ancient Norse language, and it's actually more intelligible to Icelandic. Back to culture though, Denmark has definitely left its mark, whether it's notable figures like author Hans Christian Andersen, philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, or whether... That's actually how you pronounce his name. Wow. It's not Soren Kierkegaard. Or whether it be the invention of the loudspeaker or Legos or their love of handball, their impeccable architecture, love of cuisine. Noma in Copenhagen, by the way, being voted the best restaurant in the world with plates that feature live ants and moss. The best in the world? If you're really going to get a feel for Danish culture, though, you kind of have to know about janteloven and hygge. The funny thing is, Danes are kind of brought up in a social mindset that is kind of integrated into their subconscious, known as janteloven, which kind of translates to something like, you are not better than the crowd, which I know sounds kind of depressing, but it's really trying to instill a sense of equality and communal cooperation. Hygge translates to something like spend good times with friends and family, and it's like a cozy thing. Of course, Denmark is known for being ranked one of the happiest overall countries, even though they are also kind of one of the highest ranked consumers of antidepressants as well. But hey, they still pull off everyday life looking oh so good, even if it's during one of those really loud annual emergency drills.
Okay, Christine, explain what's happening right now.
Denmark is testing the sirens for warfare. Yeah, when we're being attacked by the Germans again.
I'm scared. I'm really, really scared right now.
Let's run to the security basement.
The Germans are coming! Speaking of Germans. Now, we all know that one person we're all kind of jealous of because they're kind of rich, well-adjusted, and have a ton of friends, and they're like kind of good-looking. Well, that's Norway. Denmark is a little bit rough. No, but seriously, for such a small nation, Denmark has a huge entourage of friends, and it's almost kind of hard for anyone in the world to dismiss them at a party. As a founding member of the EU and NATO, Denmark has had roots planted in diplomacy for decades. First off, Denmark generally gets along with Germany. Business between the Germans is a hugely integral part of their economy, and Denmark acts like the gateway to Scandinavia for them and the rest of Europe. The US and the UK are incredibly close as both tangible and cultural imports have been established for centuries. For a while, the Danes even took over parts of the UK, which is why to this day the English language still retains hundreds of Old Norse-derived words like leg, dog, and window. The closest friends, though, would have to be the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. These four are without a doubt Denmark's closest friends, even though Sweden and them have kind of had more wars and battles historically than any other two states in the world. They've moved on and grown up. Out of the Nordic countries, though, Norway would probably be considered their best friends. Danes are obsessed with Norwegians and often consider Norway the girlfriend they took away from Sweden. In conclusion, Denmark is the rich, rainy rascal that always seems to show up on time for every party, but somehow gets all his work done in an organized, efficient manner. Stay tuned, Djibouti is coming up next.
The Djibouti.
kind of wonder, man, have he visited all these places?
I don't know,
that
but
talk about?
and I also am really curious if he's like a language person, like a
Yeah. Oh,
linguistic,
yeah.
because or does he just look up a ton of information and understand it before he does these videos? But
Yeah.
he's really, really good at all these languages.
Yeah.
And so I'm
And
super
he got
curious.
and he got a
about
bunch of videos of all these different geographies. I mean,
Yeah.
a bunch. That's what his, pretty much his channel's all about. So it's like, do you know all these languages, or do you just study like certain parts of it?
Although all the ones we've watched have been mostly these Scandinavian countries, except
Yeah,
for
yeah,
like
yeah.
Estonia and Latvia. But
Yeah.
if he is Finnish or from Denmark or something, then he would already somewhat understand these
Yeah,
languages,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
maybe that's it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's learned one of them, and so then can understand the rest of them better. But I don't know.
That's crazy.
He's really incredibly good at it.
Yeah, it was crazy about the that one place was voted I guess the best restaurant in the world.
Yeah.
And it had like live bugs and stuff
It
like
was
that. Live
ants and moss. I'm like, see,
I
this is the
guess-
thing. A lot of these like best cuisines, like I don't even like it.
Yeah.
I'd rather just have a burger and fries
Yeah.
or a pizza.
Well, I, mean, I guess because we live in America.
I
But,
know. I just don't like fancy food.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I guess to each his own. I mean, somebody else might like it, and somebody might not like our burger and fries. but-
Yeah. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I wouldn't mind like a nice filet mignon.
Yeah,
And some
time to
good
time.
roasted potatoes, but
Yeah.
I'm
But
happy
they're
with
real
this.
like fancy with only a small
Yeah, no.
little bit of thing on
and
there.
like 4 potatoes, and then
Yeah,
I'm like,
like-
where's the rest of my food? I
Yeah.
just paid $50 for this.
Yeah.
Anyways, we digress.
But we definitely, we definitely enjoyed this. This is definitely a great video. Denmark, it's amazing. Like just learning all these like different countries.
I
And,
know. I feel like I'm
we
becoming
heard
so
about them, but we don't really know
knowledgeable
too much
about
about
the
them.
world now.
Yeah.
We keep it going with these.
But if you want to support our channel, don't forget to check out our Streamlab. It's gonna be in the pinned comments. It's gonna be in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
And thumbs it up.
Turn on notification. It should be more be.
And Nicole.
We're gonna catch you on the next with awesome. Peace and love, baby.